If the 49ers are going to make their patented second half run, all they got to do is stop doing one simple thing, Grant. And I have done the research over the bye week. I have put in the work. I have been in the lab. I have figured out what it is. And I will tell you next on the Gold Standard Podcast, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cone on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cone, live at Levi's Stadium on a hats-only edition of the program today. This was not even planned, but here we are.
I just have a vision of you like in an underground lab, like in Breaking Bad, with like test tubes and beakers and smoke coming out, and it's like, you're right, got it. So I can't wait to hear what you've got on this one, man.
Sucking down energy drinks. I have been in the lab all week trying to figure out, to self-scout. You know, that's what the bye week is for. You self-scout, you diagnose, you figure out your issues and what the problem is and how to fix it and be better going forward. And I have done that for the 49ers. So you're welcome, Kyle Shanahan. I figured it out for you. All you need to do, as we've been trying to tell you for however long we've been doing this show, just listen to us. We got it. We got it.
What I love about Niner fans these days. Like, quality control is a way of life. And it's a very interesting team because it's an excellent team, but they haven't gotten over the hump. And any person who's a fan of the Niners has an opinion on why they haven't gotten over the hump and what they need to do to get there. And I think that's why this is the most interesting team in sports.
But I figured it out, though. All those other people are wrong.
I'd love to hear it. Also, what I want to talk about once we get through Rob's brilliant analysis and discovery. I'd also like to talk about players who need to step up who aren't named Christian McCaffrey, because it's possible he'll just save everything. But I think other players in the team could step up too. But that'll be the second half.
Normally in life, one single man does not save everything. Just throwing that out there for your just general consumption on this Wednesday. Here's the thing, Grant. All they got to do is stop turning the football over, particularly in the second half. The 49ers have 11 giveaways this season. 9 of them have come after halftime. 9 of 11. In the second half, Brock Purdy has 7 total touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That is why they are not closing out games. That is why they are 4-4. Just stop giving the other team the ball. Even if they don't figure out the red zone issues, all they got to do is not give the ball to the other team. That's it.
It's a very interesting thing. And I think you're right. And the way you phrased it was, I don't really take issue with, although I think is interesting. Because you did mention Brock, but you mostly talked about they and them, and it was like a collective, which is true. It's a team. But what was the number? 11 turnovers, you said, the Niners? 11?
11 giveaways this year, yes.
11 giveaways. Okay. 9 of them are from one person. Brock Purdy.
Interceptions and fumbles.
Right. So it could be a Niner issue. It could be a Brock issue. Like, we've talked, like, I love that you brought up closing out games. And we've really looked at the defense. Like, you know, you couldn't close the deal against Geno and you let Dak come back. But what was Brock doing during that time? Going 3 and out, throwing passes that either got tipped or intercepted. When Kyle's been asked about closing out games, he talks about the offense. And again, he won't use Brock Purdy's name. He'll talk about, we need to do this and we need to do that. But I think a big story this season is Brock turning the ball over. And that was the thing with Jimmy. I mean, they're definitely different quarterbacks. Brock's a great athlete. The way he scrambles is phenomenal. But turnovers are an issue for him right now.
There's a very simple solution to that, Grant.
Stop turning the ball over. I love that. As his attorney, I would highly recommend, don't do it.
It's not only that. I talked about how one man rarely solves everything. Well, I'll tell you this. Christian McCaffrey solves a lot for the 49ers. And it doesn't have anything to do with his rushing yards, and it doesn't have anything to do with his touchdowns. Do you know, Grant, that when Christian McCaffrey doesn't play, the 49ers turn the ball over almost 2 times a game, 1.6 turnovers per game without Christian McCaffrey.
It's hard to win that way.
When he plays, they turn it over 0.8 times per game, literally half as much. They do not turn the ball over when Christian McCaffrey plays. That is his biggest contribution to this offense. It's that right there, that one thing, because the offense is good, Grant. The 49ers they have a good offense. They have the most yards per game.
Not in the red zone, though. That to me, like Christian McCaffrey's impact is widespread. It's the turnovers, it's the red zone, it's the touchdown. This man should have won the MVP last year. I'm so sorry. Lamar Jackson, great player, playing better this year than last year. It should have been Christian last year. My God.
The 49ers have the most yards per game in the NFC, second in the NFL. Only Baltimore puts up more yards per game than the 49ers, and this is without Christian McCaffrey this year. They have the 4th most passing yards per game. They have the 4th most rushing yards per game. They're 6th in points per game, even with all the red zone issues. Even without Christian McCaffrey, they are top 10 in points per game in the league. The one thing they got to fix is to not give the other team the damn football, and just Christian McCaffrey's mere presence will mitigate that.
And again, when you say we're talking Brock mostly. There was the Jordan Mason fumble, and someone else must have turned the ball over as well.
Yeah, I can't think of.
Was it Garendo? I don't know, like off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't think of the other ones.
This is mostly a Brock issue. And so what I'm looking is, when is Brock turning the ball over? Like as far as interceptions go, I'm looking at his splits, and I think one that's really interesting is time in the pocket. When he holds the ball less than 2.5 seconds, which is what he used to do, is 1 pick this year. But when he holds the ball more than 2.5 seconds, which is what he's been doing a lot this year, he actually has more attempts where he holds the ball more than 2.5 seconds than less than 2.5 seconds. 6 picks, 6 touchdowns, 6 picks. That's the problem. It's fun to watch him run left, run right, do a cartwheel, and a back handspring before throwing the ball, but it's just not winning football. Do it here and there, maybe once or twice a game, but it's too much. He needs to be more decisive, get the ball out of your hands, or scramble, or be a runner. Not one of this like, I'm running, actually I'm throwing, no, I'm running. Like, don't do that. That's when the picks happen.
I just could not believe that they turned the ball over twice as much without Christian McCaffrey as with Christian McCaffrey. And maybe that's because Brock, he gets open so easily on the checkdowns that because most of Brock's interceptions are on short throws. They're on short throws over the middle. He doesn't throw that many like deep passes. Most of his picks come when he's, throwing the ball into traffic in the middle of the field. But McCaffrey is so damn good and you can't cover him. So when he throws to McCaffrey, he's always wide open. So there's nobody around to make those interceptions.
There's also no excuse to hold the ball 3.5, 4 seconds when McCaffrey's on the field. Check it down.
Yeah. And
because you're a good scrambler, man. Absolutely. But you're not Christian McCaffrey. Let him run. That's what he's supposed to do. So I think like this whole hero ball or whatever you want to call the new style that Brock Purdy's been doing, you could say he's done it out of necessity. You could say he's done it because he's trying to show that he's worth $65 million a year. But I think that's got to end, going to end, better end. Because if he does that stuff with Christian McCaffrey jumping on the field, Christian McCaffrey might, you know what I mean? Say something. We'll say something to him in the huddle on the next play.
And I do think that some of it is Christian McCaffrey's better at getting open than the other guys, but some of it I do think is Brock. Like he did not have the confidence in the running backs in the checkdowns as much as he did with Christian McCaffrey. Like there are plays where the running backs are wide open on a checkdown and Brock doesn't throw it to them. And I just feel like if it was McCaffrey, he'd be like, oh, there you go. Like, I don't think he for whatever reason, he did not, I think, trust them as much as he trusts McCaffrey.
I think there's a lot to that. I also felt like he was hunting big plays. Maybe because he felt he had to, maybe because he thinks that's what's going to get him paid. But he needs to stop doing that because, again, when he holds the ball a long time, like Russell Wilson used to do that 10 years ago when he was super quick. He could hold the ball forever, and then he could throw it 70 yards. And it would be a touchdown. That's not what Brock really is going to do. He could hold the ball for all that time, but he's still going to throw like a 15, 20, 25-yard pass into traffic. So I think he's better off just getting the ball out of his hands or running.
Matt McCune says Brock equals Baker. Baker's had his interception issues also this year.
They're very similar. They're very similar. And I think Baker's a damn good quarterback. And he played the Chiefs really tough.
You saw a couple of, and I get that this is going to make people mad, but in that Chiefs-Bucs game, I saw a couple of number 1 draft pick type throws. Like Baker was the number 1 overall pick, and he ripped a couple balls in there against Kansas City.
Right. Because our arm talent matters when you get drafted. And you can say all the superlatives you want about Brock Purdy, but the reason he wasn't drafted high is because of his arm. And the reason Baker was is because of his arm. And I think they're both damn good quarterbacks. If you took Baker off that team and put Brock on it, would they be better? Would they be worse? Would they be about the same? They might be about the same.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be worse.
I don't think they'd be worse. No, I think they're both good quarterbacks who could do a lot of the same things.
But so, yeah, Brock has to be better, clearly, in the second half of the season. But I was just astonished in that number 1, how good this offense. I didn't realize like where they ranked in terms of just raw yardage, even with the red zone struggles and without McCaffrey. Like they're still right up there. That caught me by surprise.
I think it's interesting that like just the narrative of Brock throughout the first half of the season, how it's evolved. I mean, it went from, man, he's playing the best football of his career. Man, he's playing he's like the highest graded quarterback on PFF. He's doing better than Patrick Mahomes this year. And then I think when you've had a week to sort of, like you said, do the autopsy, self-scout, you see that he's a big reason they're 4-4 right now. Despite a lot of the good things he's done, those turnovers are killers. And he can't play like that. No quarterback can turn the ball over multiple times in a game. And he's done that. He's 0-5 when he does that. He needs to stop doing that. 3 times against the Chiefs, you can't do that.
Or if you're not going to stop turning the football over, which
throw a lot of touchdown passes.
Yes, score more touchdowns. Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl leading the league in interceptions. Why? Because he put up 40 touchdowns. Like, you can do it, but you have to produce on the other end. The 49ers, and this all comes from Michelle Majuk, who hosts with me on Fridays for our Gold Diggers podcast. She's a researcher for NFL Network. I asked her about a bunch of this stuff, and she dug up some great numbers for me, so I want to give her the credit. There are 8 teams in the league right now scoring at least 26 points a game. The 49ers are one of those teams. Hooray. 7 of those teams have a combined red zone touchdown percentage of 65%. The other team, the 49ers, has a touchdown red zone percentage of 48.6%. So the other teams are doing it because when they get to the red zone, they friggin' score touchdowns. I don't know how the 49ers are scoring as much as they have while being so bad in the red zone.
It's a good question. Is it that they're converting? I have no idea. Are they kicking a lot of field goals? Are they scoring touchdowns on special teams? It's strange.
I think
it doesn't really make sense.
They're scoring more on bigger plays outside the red zone, I would imagine. But I
think they're getting to the red zone a lot. I think that's the answer. I don't think they're punting a lot. I think they're making it there probably amongst the highest rate in the league. And then when they get there, they kick a lot of field goals.
Think how much and how good this offense would be if they even got their red zone percentage up to like 53%. You know, like if they just upped it a little, they're already top 6 in scoring. Imagine where
to your point, turnovers are everything. They could go from 48 to 53 or 58 or 60. And if Brock's still going to be having these games where he has 2 turnovers, they'll lose. So I was looking it up, like Brock's 0-5 when he turns the ball, when he throws 2 picks in a game. And I'm thinking like, man, there's got to be quarterbacks who can win in those situations. Not many. I look at Stafford, like he has twice as many losses as wins when he has 2 picks in a game. The only quarterback I could find who had a winning record in that situation, Mahomes, 9-8.
Of course.
And that's like that when people say he's like having a down year, it's like, you don't understand. Like go look at his record when he's down 7 points in the fourth quarter. So like he has records and stats that no quarterback I've ever seen has ever had, which is why I still think he's the greatest quarterback of all time, even before he turns 30.
I'm not willing to go that far, but he's on the path. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's literally potentially going to win his 3rd straight Super Bowl this year, which nobody has ever done. Nobody.
That would do it right there.
Yeah. I mean, Montana, Marino, Brady. That's crazy. And look, who knows? There's a long way to go yet. I thought he might, miss some games because he was so injured, and then all of a sudden, nope. Turns out, not only is he not severely injured, he's not even going to miss a snap.
He just had to rub some dirt on it. It's all it took.
It makes me so damn mad. Their
team isn't even good this year, and it's like no one can beat him. No one can beat him. It's incredible. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, for Chiefs fans. Was a little encouraged.
It's like watching Floyd Mayweather in his prime. It's like, will someone beat this guy, please? Nope.
Yeah,
can't happen.
No. I was a little encouraged though, because the Chiefs put up, what was it, 30 points on them, or 27, whatever it was, on Tampa Bay. And like we said, the Chiefs offense hasn't exactly been good this year. So the 49ers should be able to move the ball and put up points against the Buccaneers. Hell, they beat the Buccaneers when they had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They should be able to beat them this week.
Here's the thing, though. The 2024 version of the 49ers without McCaffrey, I'm not sure they should beat Tampa. They haven't beaten a team that good. They haven't. Not yet. And they made things way too interesting with Dallas. So if McCaffrey comes back and he can make an impact, either with the ball or as a decoy, like changing the coverages that the Niners face, then yeah, absolutely, they win this game. But if McCaffrey isn't ready for this game, I mean, this team hasn't won 2 in a row. This team doesn't play 60 minutes. The Bucs do. The Bucs do. They're a hard-playing, solid team, not a great team, not even a good team, but the hard-playing, solid team. The Niners, you can't even say that about them. Maybe this week. I don't know.
They have not put together 4 total quarters this year.
No.
That's not disputable. They haven't. And it's for a team that's as veteran and experienced as they are, it's really inexcusable. I mean, it's inexcusable for any team, but like this is not the team that should have that problem. The team that has seen 2 Super Bowls slip through their fingers because they couldn't put together 4 quarters of play should not be the team that still cannot put together 4 quarters of play.
Right. And it's like, are they doing it this year because is this the Super Bowl hangover and they're just tired and it's mentally exhausted and they're like, you know what? We know we're a November to December team anyway, and Christian's going to come back and we can flip the switch. Or are they just not that good? They're talented, but are they just not that good? It might just not be their year. We'll see. It's a lot of pressure on Christian to like flip the entire script of this season.
No worries, Christian. Just carry the team with 2 bad Achilles. It's fine.
Well put. Yeah.
Jam 18 reminded me of this, and thank you, Jam. Says Bucs will be tired recently playing for 5 quarters. They played over 80 snaps against Kansas City, more than 40 minutes of time of possession in that game for Kansas City. And it's
they have 8 days of rest advantage, the Niners. If they go to Tampa and lose this game with Christian on the field, just shut it down. Shut it down.
So they should be able to work the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs defense is not good, okay?
No.
They allow the third.
Vita Vea is great.
They allow the 3rd most yards in the league. It's Carolina is the worst, Jacksonville is the next worst, and then the Bucs. So they are giving you yardage, and the 49ers chew up yardage. So that is good. When your strength aligns with the weakness of the other team, you should be able to billy club them.
So pretty much all you got to do, forget the red zone. Don't turn the ball over twice, Brock. You might even be able to turn it over once because Baker does the same stuff. But you turn it over twice, you're going to play yourself out of that contract too. Like, don't forget that Sam Darnold's a free agent next year and Kyle loves him too. Don't forget. Okay.
Every possession needs to end in a kick, whether it's a punt, a field goal, or a point after touchdown. That should be the goal for the 49ers. End every possession with a kick, and you'll win.
Especially against a defense that's not good.
Right. And they are not good, by the way. They allow the 3rd most passing yardage per game. They allow the 5th most points per game. They're giving up 27 points a game.
That's disgusting.
You should win this. You should win it. I don't care if it's early body clock. I don't care about any of that. Beat them down, damn it. Get a nice win. Go above 500. Get an NFC win, which could be big when it comes to tiebreakers. You need this. You got to have this one.
Here's the thing that's scary about Tampa, though. Their offense is good.
Mm-hmm.
Even without those wide receivers, like 2 good running backs, a hell of a tight end, a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but a good quarterback. And it's what looks like a hell of an offensive coordinator who people don't really know by name yet because everyone's focused on Ben Johnson, who's doing a great job. But Liam freaking Cohn from the Rams in Kentucky is doing a good job. And when you watch that team, they're fun to watch on offense.
You Cohns stick together, don't you? I know.
He's Irish. I think it's Coen. I think he's Irish.
I know. I just couldn't.
Yeah, he's not part of the tribe. He could be part of the tribe if he wants to.
Top 5 yards per game offense, top 5 passing yards per game as well, top 10 in rushing.
Points.
So, and yeah, they're 5th in points, 28.8 points per game. They're actually one spot ahead of the Niners because the Niners are.
Yeah, it's a hell of an offense with a similar scheme. and a creative coach and a good quarterback and good running back. It's like, okay, so they don't have their wide receivers, and those guys are great, but the Niners have really good corners, and they match up well with guys like that. Where you want to get the Niners is linebacker and safety, tight ends and running backs. Like, you want Devondre Campbell running around and in man-to-man coverage or in zone, either way. So, and a quarterback who can scramble. Baker's not exactly Kyler, but he will scramble.
He can move a little, yeah. Fortunately for the Niners, they have a coach who is so conservative. He might even be more conservative than Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I couldn't believe what I saw in that game. The Bucs get the ball. They drive. First of all, they get a holding penalty on their last offensive drive. They overcome it against Steve Spagnuolo's defense. They drive down the field with no receivers, and they stick it in the end zone, and Todd Bowles kicks the point after touchdown. Like, what? What? How do you not go for 2 in that spot? I don't understand it. How do you not go for 2? How do you not see the Super Bowl that just happened and think, yeah, it's okay. We'll potentially give Patrick Mahomes the ball in his hands with a chance to win the game. Like, we're doing this again?
And what's crazy is Bowles beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. You'd think he would know what it takes. It's like, what happened to that Bowles? That guy was 4 years ago was so aggressive, and he had all the different pressures and blitzes, and now it's like, man, your defense sucks, and you're just kind of passive and conservative. What happened? You used to be aggressive.
You have to stop Mahomes in regulation anyway because he's getting the ball back. So it's like I was stunned by that. But you know what? Maybe that'll help because maybe Bowles will have a chance to stick it to the Niners and he'll pass it up this week, and that could leave the door open. Who knows? That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Harold McAllister says, does Brock need to play more like Alex Smith?
No, he's played more like he played last year.
You're right. Yes, that's the
simple as that. He's doing too much. Simple as that. Do less. Remember that movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he goes to learn how to surf, and the guy Kunu was what's his face?
Paul Rudd.
Anyway, Paul Rudd, and his only tip is no. You're doing too much. Do less. That's Brock. Just do less, dude.
And I think
too much.
I think last week we kind of saw Kyle put Brock in a position to do less, right? We saw end arounds by wide receivers. We saw the return of the screen pass. Hallelujah. We remembered that that's the thing that you're allowed to do. We saw kind of the Jimmy Gimmies, for lack of a better term. And the Niners offense looked much better last week or, against the Cowboys.
Also, I mean, it did in the third quarter. That was so interesting about that game. Like the first half, it wasn't great. And in the third quarter, it was so incredible that it basically overshadowed the whole game. But it's like, if you can do that for a quarter, you can do that for a game, right? Like Brock in particular, he was basically flawless as a passer. He rushed for 30 yards. He was unstoppable for 15 minutes. And then the fourth quarter happened, and then he was like 3 and out. Like, what? I don't understand that. So we'll see. Maybe they just needed a bye week.
Fourth quarter of that Dallas game. I mean, one of the possessions, they go 3 and out. They gained 9 yards on first down, and they couldn't get another yard to keep that possession going. That was one of the possessions in the fourth quarter. The next one ended with a field goal where they drove down the field and got 3. The next one, they went 3 and out. So,
dude, that one where the first play call is a pass and he scrambles for 7 yards. It's like, okay, you got lucky there. Run the freaking ball, Kyle. Second play call, a pass, and he's sacked from the blind side by a guy who's completely unblocked, and he doesn't fumble. Like, oh my God. I at that point in the game, I had left the press box. I thought the game was over. I went down to start my walk to the press room where I, talk about how the Niners won easily. And I'm just standing there. I noticed that Mike Silver's down there not moving. I'm like, what happened? It's like, oh, well, Brock almost fumbled. I'm like, what? I didn't even watch the last 2. I thought the game was over. Like, that was crazy. And that was a lot on not just Brock, on Kyle too.
I will say, watching the games this past week, a lot of teams struggled late to close it out. Now, I'm not saying it excuses the 49ers struggles, but they aren't the only ones that have struggled to close it out. I mean, the Eagles almost gacked it up to the friggin' Jaguars. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't Trevor Lawrence and throw a pick in the end zone on first down, the Jags are going to steal that game away from the Eagles. I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, hang on. Let me go back and look. There was multiple other games where teams were either up, had a big lead, and then had to gack it up. Buffalo almost gacked it up to Miami in that game, 30-27. It wasn't like the 49ers are alone in this, but it still doesn't. They still have to get better at it. They have to.
It just seems like to me that we're in the middle of an incredible dynasty, these Chiefs. And it's their Super Bowl to win every year. And we're looking like, is there a team that could knock them off this year? Hasn't happened in years. I don't think it's the Niners, even if McCaffrey's really good this year. Is it Baltimore? Maybe. Is it Detroit? It just feels like it's Kansas City's year every year, which is boring. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, and frustrating. Matt McCune called a great game against that defense, except 2 points. He's also a McVay pupil. Yeah, McVay is conservative, man. That McVay, LaFleur, Shanahan, they're so conservative. They're all young and hip, but they all coach like old school coaches. It's bizarre to me.
And one of the cool things about Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell is that they don't do that. Don't do that.
I don't know if Ben Johnson would be like that as a head coach. He may be taking orders from Dan Campbell. I don't know. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I have no idea. But it's ultimately Campbell's call, and we know where the hell he stands. Detroit looks really good, man. Detroit looks like the best team in the NFL. They look like what I would say is the only complete team. They have a good enough defense. They just got Zadarius Smith. Excuse me. So that should help replace some of the pass rush that they lost with the Aiden Hutchinson injury. Their special team, they're the best special teams team in the league. They can run it. They can throw it. They look like the complete team, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm sitting here rooting for the Lions to beat the Chiefs. That would be a miserable Super Bowl for me.
It is interesting to watch the Lions, though, knowing that Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach probably pretty soon, and what makes him interesting. Compare them to the Niners. They sort of have a similar identity. The Lions want to run the ball. Mm-hmm. They don't throw the ball that much. But the difference is they don't have one running back. They got two that they trust and they rotate, and they have a great offensive line.
Yeah.
So they can run the ball even if teams know they're going to run the ball. Whereas the Niners, their offense is a little bit more like, okay, what are you trying to take away? We'll do the opposite. Oh, you want to load up and stop the run? Well, we can pass the ball right now. We can and do all that kind of stuff, which is cool and tricky. But sometimes it's nice to be able to like impose your will in football, and the Lions can do that. And when it's time to pass the ball, like Goff doesn't miss right now. He's on a heater that like I haven't seen in a long time. It's like Drew Brees stuff. He does not miss.
I think that Ben Johnson is doing a perfect job because they're able to run the ball so well. He's able to put Goff in positions to succeed constantly, and Goff has done that. And I think where you're talking about with the offense, where it really helps them is in the red zone, because they just run the ball. They don't give a crap what you do. So they run the ball when they get down to the red zone. Number one, that minimizes risk. And number two, they can score touchdowns. And that's why their offense looks better than the 49ers offense.
And to me, like, if you want to run the ball successfully in the red zone, you either have to have like the best running back in the league or a big offensive line that can push the defense back, because outside zone, trying to stretch the defense to the side, to me is very effective on your side of the field or in midfield. But when the field is compressed and the safeties are right freaking there, I think it helps a little bit more to be able to like play power football and create holes as opposed to trying to stretch a defense out. That's part of it.
There's just less to worry about, and you can use the sidelines as extra defenders. The back of that end zone is a 12th defender for every defense. So the whole Shanahan offense is about getting people in space. Well, there's just less space when you get down to the red zone, which is why Shanahan's teams have not been great in the red zone except with Christian McCaffrey. When he's been there, they've been awesome in the red zone because he could just friggin' run it in.
Yeah, and I think a reason why teams are going to be interested or have been interested in Ben Johnson is like, yes, Jared Goff is good. He might be really good, and he's improved, but he's never in a position where he has to throw. You know what I mean? Like when he does throw, it's like you're kind of surprised, and he doesn't do it that often. And yeah, he's super precise, but that's very much on the coach calling plays in a way that keeps the defense on their heels and being really committed to running the ball. I think a lot of teams would want that for their quarterback. I mean, imagine Brock Purdy only throwing 25 passes a game, but you never know when it's going to be, and he's over here completing 22 of them. That's nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like this comment from Christian Ayala, who says, Kyle's second and short play calls give me anxiety, just saying. And this can sort of transition us into what you wanted to talk about, Grant. People that need to step up for the 49ers in the second half. And I put Kyle on that list. Like, dude, when it's second and short or third and short, I have no confidence in this offense. They're not just below average in those situations, they're bad. They're predictable, and they fail way more than they should in those situations. Christian's right. The second and short play calling, the and short, whether that's second and short, whether that's and goal, whatever you want to call it, that play calling has to be better.
I agree. I mean, a lot of time, like what I like about Ben Johnson, for example, is anytime you have to get 1 yard, it seems like he has a trick play. Like he could throw the ball, like a hook and ladder to the offensive tackle. He has a million ways to get 1 yard. Andy Reid has a million ways to get 1 yard. And it seems like when it's time for the Niners to get 1 yard, it's like hand off to Jordan Mason up the middle against the 9-man box, or hand off to Kyle Juszczyk. Like, where's the misdirection? Where's the play action naked bootleg? Where's the jet sweep? I mean, you have all the creativity and the personnel to do it. It's just not, I don't know, maybe they'll figure it out at the bye week, but I completely agree with that.
Or you don't have to be creative. Just give it to Brock and let him sneak it every time. I think he's missed only one. I think he's like 7 of 8 on quarterback sneaks this year. And one of them, by the way, was like a 3-yard quarterback sneak, which he got into the end zone, which was crazy. Like, just quarterback sneak it. I'm fine with that. That's a high success play. Like,
it's interesting how the Chiefs don't run that play. Well, Mahomes got hurt one time and they're like, never again. And like, that's the easiest way to get 1 yard. And they're over here in the shotgun doing like fake. So many complex ways to get 1 yard, and it works for them. But yeah, you're right. Like, if you're comfortable using Brock that way and he hasn't gotten hurt yet, then just use the freaking quarterback sneak. It's a great play.
If you want to be tricky, that's fine. But I'm not saying you have to be tricky. What I'm saying is you got to get the first down by hook or by crook. Use that Trent Williams play they used against Green Bay where he went in motion and then he was the lead blocker. That thing is terrifying, man. Use that. But it has to be better. You have so much talent on offense. The strength of your team is offense, but yet when you need only 1 yard, you're worse than when you need 10. That shouldn't be.
Yeah, and to me, this is what we were talking about, people who need to improve. Kyle Shanahan. Okay, so your short yardage run game wasn't very good. Your red zone offense wasn't very good. And instead of him like working on the fly to change things, it felt like his attitude and the team's attitude is like, well, Christian's coming back. So we don't really need to make wholesale changes. It's not working right now because of Jordan Mason and some of these guys who aren't going to be necessarily on the field down the stretch. So let's stay the course, not overreact, and see what it looks like when Christian comes back. And again, that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy who has had 1 practice in the last 2 months.
The crazy thing is they might be right. That's the craziest part about it is like, if he...
What's plan B, though?
Right. That's the question. Right? What's plan B? Now, we've talked about it. Other people have talked about it. Kyle Shanahan has been very good coming out of the bye. 70% of his games after the bye, he's won. So maybe they are set to make those adjustments. We'll have to see. They have done it in years past. Like, that is not in dispute. But they need to do it this year in a big way. So I would put Kyle up there on guys that need to step up. Who else do you have on your list?
Well, Brock. We talked about it earlier. We don't have to belabor the point, but Brock Purdy absolutely needs to step up, man.
Yeah.
7 picks and 2 fumbles lost in 8 games, and only offset with 12 touchdowns. Can't happen. He's played better than that in the past. He's bringing a lot of it on himself by holding the ball too long. He's over here playing like Sam Darnold. Stop. Stop.
Matt Barrows had a column in The Athletic. It was like a prediction column. And one of his second half predictions was if Brock Purdy has a second half like he did in the first half, he's going to get a market value quarterback contract in the offseason. And so I looked and I was like, wait, really? Because that's like 20 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. That's not good.
Not getting it done. He's costing himself money. That's like Daniel Jones numbers right there. I mean, Jimmy did better on this team. So we all expect numbers to bounce back, especially with Christian on the field. He doesn't even have to get the ball. If he's on the field, defenses are terrified. They won't call man-to-man coverage. He'll have an impact as a decoy, which is why I do think he'll play this weekend, even if he's not heavily featured. But Brock, dude, he needs to step up. And it's a lot with the turnovers. People made fun of the whole interception watch in training camp. You practice how you play. I'm sorry. That's why I always harped on it. It's like he hasn't played that long. These things even out over time, and I think we're seeing it a little bit. He needs to be more mindful.
He didn't last year. He had 11 picks all of last year, and 4 of those came in 1 game. He has 7 already this year.
You could look at it as regression. Maybe this is just evening out. I mean, 7 in 8 games is a lot. I wouldn't expect him to do that over the next 8. I wouldn't expect him. 3 came in 1 game.
Hopefully a positive sign for the Niners and Brock. I put Debo on that list, Grant.
Yep.
I think Debo's got to step up. No Brandon Ayuk now. You've got the rookies. Yeah, they're great. Kittle is kicking ass, which is great to see. But dude, we paid you to be the number one wide receiver. You got to step up. And it can't just be on these short passes. You got to find another level to which you can take your game if this team is going to go where they want to go. And he's been good at times this year, but not enough. There's been too many games where he's been nothing. I need more from number one.
Yeah, he needs to be a go-to number one receiver because right now it's Kittle. At times it's been Jawan Jennings. Debo, you're the one. You look like you're fast. You're not breaking tackles the way you used to be, but you're still explosive. Maybe lighter and more explosive than you were in the past. So he definitely needs to step up. And I think it's not all him. He had a pretty good game against Dallas. There was that one play over the middle where the pass was behind him. If it was in front of him, he could have taken that one for a long touchdown. So I would agree. But part of that is on Brock. I'm going to go also defense, like Leonard Floyd.
Yeah.
Leonard Floyd. It's not all him, but they brought him in being like, man, the guy's just so consistent. He'll just get you 9-10 sacks in his sleep. Well, he's got about 3, and he's not making much of an impact. And they didn't go out and get Zadarius Smith, who, Lions did. They didn't get Uche. There were guys. And the Niners are like, no, we like Leonard Floyd. So, Leonard, reward their confidence in you.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd had been between 9 and 10 sacks in each of the last 4 years. 10.5, 9.5, 9, 10.5. He is at 3 right now. So one of two things is going to happen. Either Leonard Floyd's going to be a massive disappointment, or he's going to kick ass in the second half of the year. If he's going to reach his career numbers, he's going to have 7 sacks in the last, 7, 8 games of the season. Right now, I kind of feel like it's trending more towards the former than the latter, but I don't know. He needs to be better. He has to be because, like you said, they didn't make a big move at the deadline. They made the most confusing move of all time, Grant, because now the 49ers have Kalia Davis, who's a defensive tackle, and Khalil Davis, who is also a defensive tackle.
All I ask, and I don't think it's that much to ask, is that when they play together, side by side.
Oh,
why not? I think they should be the 2 backup defensive tackles for now. And they can only be on the field at the same time just to confuse the announcers.
Look, it worked with Menahu. It worked with Malik Collins, right? Defensive linemen from the Texans seem to be okay. So let's add another name to that list. Look, they didn't give up any. They gave up a 7th round.
He better step up, Khalil Davis, man. They didn't trade a 2026 7th round pick for nothing. You got a lot of pressure, buddy.
Hey, you know what? Jordan Willis is the one that made that big punt block against the Packers that won them that game, right? Sometimes it's the little moves they make that end up having big ramifications.
Before we move on to more people who need to step up, let's take a minute to acknowledge the ones who did in the first half.
All right.
The Jordan Masons of the world. Where would the Niners be right now if Jordan Mason wasn't ready to go for the first half of the season? Not just a game without McCaffrey, but 8. He's huge.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to see now, that comment from him after the first game where he was like, I don't know how Christian McCaffrey does this. I'm exhausted. I think what you're starting to see is he wasn't ready to be the guy to carry the load. He's been injured. He's been ineffective this past few weeks, but you're right. He absolutely stepped up in a huge way. Right out of the gate, 100+ yards in 3 out of his first 4 games, 147, 177, and 123 with 3 rushing touchdowns in the first 4 games. He did carry a huge part of this offense, and the Niners are lucky that he did.
Yeah, they wouldn't have 4 wins right now if he weren't on the team. And then Garendo as well. Isaac Garendo. Jordan Mason gets hurt. Garendo steps up and is ready for it. A guy who was looked at as a project. He closed out 2 wins for them, Garendo.
The entire rookie class has been a huge boost to this team. Garendo, Malik Mustafa, obviously Dominic Pooney. Dominic Pooney should be number 1 on this damn list with a bullet. He's
no Feliciano. It could have been 8 games of Burford. No disrespect, but he hasn't been great. And Feliciano's been their second best offensive lineman.
Pooney's been their second best.
Excuse me. I just am so excited that Feliciano's back.
Yeah. He's been a friggin' stud, man. To get a plug-and-play offensive lineman in the 3rd round, the fact that he is so good allowed them to get Renardo Green in the 2nd round, who also looks very, very solid. We thought that the Niners, if they were gonna get this level of offensive lineman, I think a lot of us thought you got to get one in the first 2 rounds, and they waited and they got him in the 3rd round. And they also now have Renardo Green and maybe Ricky Pearsall. It's too early to say what Ricky Pearsall is or isn't. He certainly has shown some encouraging signs, but to get Pooney where they got him, 100% steal and 100% a guy that stepped up in the first half.
Okay, let's get back to guys who need to step up in the second half. This is a guy who's been stepping up. He's been hurt a little bit. I think you don't need more from Jauan Jennings, but they need him to pick up where he left off because he's going to get more snaps, more targets, and it seemed like he was ready for it. I don't know what this hip injury has done to him, but with Ayuk out for the season, he needs to sort of take that role in the offense. I don't know if he can play the same exact position, but the targets, the where he gets the ball on the field, he needs to step up and be that consistent performer that he has maybe shown that he possibly could be.
Jennifer Lee Chan had a tweet about Jauan and his injury. And it
was something I've never heard of.
Yes, I remember the tweet. And here it is.
PSOAS. What is that?
Yeah, so when I saw it, I was like, I don't know if this is good or bad because it's an injury I've never heard of. But I've been following football a long time, and I've heard of a lot of injuries. So when it's something I've never heard of, she said, Jauan Jennings shared that he is not dealing with a hip pointer, but rather a strain of the PSOAS muscle. I don't even know how you say that word. A strain of the psoas muscle that is the connector between the hip joint and the low spine. Like, ow!
Doesn't sound good at all. And when they said it was a hip injury and they wouldn't explain more, it's like, okay, so it's worse than a hip injury, huh? So what is it connected to? What is it also? So I don't know exactly what to expect from Jauan Jennings. That sounds bad. Or it sounds like something I don't know what it is, to be more honest, I don't know what the hell that is, which makes me feel like it's bad when I don't know things.
This is just a Google search. So I'm just reading the results on Google. But the muscle is a long triangular muscle that runs from the lower back to the groin. It is among the most significant muscles that overlie the vertebral column.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like
painful.
An area that can be repeatedly smashed into by people running as fast as they can.
And if it's connected to your groin, then maybe you could injure it just from running. I don't know. But yeah, that sounds terrible. Who else? I mean, Christian goes without saying. Like, what's interesting about McCaffrey is last year they had him healthy, playing at an Offensive Player of the Year MVP level, and they still were like, you know what? We need a pass rusher. Christian's great, but we need Chase Young. This year they're like, Christian's coming back. We're good. He's going to fix everything. Yeah, maybe. So, Christian, you got to stay healthy. You got to catch passes. You don't necessarily need to be like the same running back you were, but as a receiver, you got to be every bit of what you were.
Generic name, says Mr. Stats. Are we forgetting all the turnover-worthy throws Brock had dropped last year? The ones people claim didn't matter? I'm sure he had some. Every quarterback also had. Like, he's not the only one that has those. Let's lay that out there, too. We seem to keep track of his more than we keep track of other people's.
I think with a quarterback with a small sample size, 1 year, 2 years, you're like, well, is this indicative of a bigger problem, or is it just a small sample size aberration? And you don't know until a guy's played 5 years. So we're still learning.
Yeah, and that's another thing to keep in mind with Brock, too, is we are definitely still learning about him. For instance, we haven't seen Brock in the rain at all this year. And by the way, for the love of God, please don't let it rain in Tampa. Please, can we get a good weather report? But like, that's been a thing with him. And every time, it hasn't happened much, but every time we've seen him in the rain, he's played significantly worse than he plays when it's dry outside. That's another thing.
And Jared Goff just did it in Green Bay. So he's up in the ante on you, Brock. Let's see what you got. And if you got to wear a glove, there's ain't no shame in that. I don't want to see the ball slipping out of your hand because of precipitation.
It slipped out of his hand twice when there was no precipitation and nobody hit him. He's lost.
It was humid in Minnesota. Humid.
And by the way,
his hands were clammy.
Not for nothing, but since you mentioned the Goff game against the Packers, it did make me think, like, maybe Jordan Love is exactly the same guy that threw that pick to Dre Greenlaw at the end of the season last year. Like, I know everybody wanted to anoint him. I'm just saying, maybe he's not the guy, that he was when he got on that hot streak the last 8 games of the year.
You watch him play, and it's like, man, this only is like he can do things that only Mahomes can do. But then he makes decisions just like, dude, what? Did you play college football at Utah State or something? What is going on here?
That pick 6 he threw at the end of the first half again, like, if that was Brock, I would have lost my damn mind.
It's like, oh, you haven't played that much football, have you? I think that's what the thing with with Love. They've done a great job of developing him slowly, and he's a really good talent, but he just hasn't played that much football. And he makes some decisions. It's like, dude, come here. You know that meme, like Andre Iguodala, it's like to Wiggins, get over here. That's how I feel about Jordan Love. What are you doing?
It was interesting. Brady was calling that game, and he ripped into Jordan Love for a bad decision he made where he should have just thrown it away, and he tried to make something happen, and he almost threw a pick. And Brady's comment during the game was like, dude, the moment doesn't call for that. It doesn't call for this level of effort. It was early in the possession. I think it was like first or second down. It was a critical spot in the game. Like, you don't need to go all out and try and put the Superman cape on. Just throw the ball away and you go on to the next play. And I feel like a lot of times Brock gets into trouble that way too, is just the managing of the moment. Like, dude, just the moment doesn't require this level of effort from you. Just stop. Like, you're working to do less. Do less.
And it seems to me like everyone wants to be like Mahomes because he's considered the greatest quarterback right now. And so what is Mahomes famous for? Extending the play, no look passes. He could throw with his left hand. Like, forget the fact that he's also the best pocket quarterback in the league. Forget that. But he can also do all this stuff, extending the play if he has to. And I think a lot of quarterbacks get caught up in that, like Brock this year, or Sam Darnold his whole freaking career, or any number of quarterbacks. And Tom Brady never did. He played a certain way. He didn't move very much. He also might have been the greatest quarterback of all time. And I think you kind of hear it in his analysis, like, well, I didn't have to do that. I don't have to do stuff like that. And I only won 7 championships, so I don't know. And then you hear him talk about Jared Goff, and he's like, you know what? I really appreciate what Jared Goff is doing because he's sort of playing in a Brady Manning-esque style in the sense that he's not moving and still making good decisions.
And I think that one of the things that makes Mahomes really great is that he has figured out when he needs to do those things and when he needs to just throw it away. And like that's part of maturing as a quarterback. Now, Mahomes is way further along in his career than Brock Purdy is. So that may be something that comes naturally, but like that is a lesson that Brock has to learn, is just, even when he throws it away, he makes your heart rate spike. Like, dude, just throw it away early. Just normal, in rhythm, throw away.
Here's another factor that I think has led to Mahomes' maturation. He didn't get a 3-year contract. He got a 10-year contract. And so I think there's no pressure on him to put up numbers. He's not eligible for free agency for a decade. What he needs to do is just go with the program. And he's doing a great job of that. I think with Brock, there's a lot of pressure, like, earn that contract, show you're worth it. Mahomes doesn't have to do that. All he has to do is keep winning Super Bowls one way or another, and the Chiefs will be happy. I think that's kind of interesting.
Well, he's had sort of a weird, like, he was so successful early. Like, he thrown his first year as a starter, he threw 50 touchdowns. Like, he's shown he can put up numbers, and he's won a championship, like, very early in his career. So
if you gave him Tyreek Hill right now, I think he could put up 50 touchdowns again. He's just bought into a different roster construction where, like, hey, you're going to have the worst wide receivers in the league, okay? But we're paying you, and you'll have a good defense and a good offensive line. He's like, cool, sounds good. Let's win.
He's just at the point, because he's accomplished so much already, he's already at the point where he's like, all I care about is winning. That's it. I don't care about anything, putting up yards. I don't care about whatever, stats, nothing. And so he plays like that, and it's complementary to what the rest of the team is doing.
Maybe the Niners should give Brock Purdy a 10-year extension.
Generic Name says, I agree with you to an extent, but why do we dismiss bad throws that are dropped by DBs but claim a game is better than numbers show when wide receivers drop them? No, well, I don't think we should I think we should apply the standard equally. We should rip him for bad throws that are dropped, because a bad throw is a bad throw, and we should also give him credit when he makes a good throw and a receiver drops it. I'm with you there, Generic Name. Like, let's evaluate this thing down the middle. My point with Brock's dropped interceptions are, he's not the only guy that it's not like no other quarterback has dropped picks and only Brock does. That was my point.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But yeah, I like to, like, for example, the throw he made to Debo on that 4th down, that's a hideously bad throw by Brock Purdy. Now, Debo still could have caught it. Yeah.
Are we talking the one behind him?
Yeah.
That should have been a touchdown.
Should have been at least a
big
20,
play.
30-yard play.
Yeah.
And the pocket was clean. There was nobody around. That's a horrible, horrible throw. Now, it was a drop pass on 4th down. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter. But yeah, it's still a terrible throw, and we should call it like that.
And that's what concerns me about Brock. Hard worker, good leader, good athlete, hell of a scrambler. So many things to like. But when you take all that away and just evaluate his passing, solid. I mean, he's not Jared Goff. He's not as accurate. I mean, his completion percentage is low this year. Just in the pocket, little small, little frail. If he gets hit, will he hold on to it? Can he hit all the open throws in stride, the deep throws? He underthrows them a little bit. His ball placement isn't top 5. But the whole amalgamation, I don't know if that's the word I was looking for, of his talents make him very good. But it's troubling that his worst attribute is his passing, at least this year. And the turnovers. That's why you don't want him throwing 40 times. He's never thrown 40 times in a game in the NFL. And I think there's a reason for that.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't want that.
Hard to win that way.
He's not precise. Precision is being able to hit the same spot every time. Sometimes his ball placement is awesome, like really good. But sometimes it's like a fire hose out there. He doesn't know where it's going. And it's like
first half of the Cowboys game. Whole first half. And then in the third quarter, he locks in.
How could both of those be in there? It doesn't make any sense, man.
I mean, this is a guy who was the last pick in the draft. And if he had that kind of arm talent, he wouldn't have been. So I think it's commendable that he's been able to turn himself into a good starting quarterback, a very good starting quarterback, despite his physical limitations, which are on his sleeve. I mean, you don't have to be a football expert to see what they are, but he's still very good. But when you watch Baker Mayfield, he doesn't have that limitation. He's got a cannon, to your point.
Yeah, Baker's got a great arm. I would like to know from Brock, like, what did you do over the bye week? Did you do any self-scouting? And if so, like, what'd you come up with, dude? I know you were hanging out with Kittle, which is fine. It's your bye week. It's your vacation. Do whatever you want. I would just be interested to know, like, what do you want to be better at in the second half of the year?
You know, it's interesting. Fred Warner has a podcast with his wife, and she asks great questions. And she's like, so what's your strategy for the bye week? And he's like, for me, I don't like to travel during the bye week because to me, like, that's just more potential inflammation you can put on your body when you're going to be traveling more. And it's like, yeah, this is what a future Hall of Fame thinks, how he thinks. He's the best player on the team. He's might be the most serious player on the team. Like, that's what he's doing. And then you see the other people who are like in Wyoming doing this and that, which is fine. But I would just do what Fred's doing if I were on the team. Like, Fred, what are you doing this? Okay, I'm doing that too. Can we hang out? I'll get you lunch. What do you think? I won't stand too close to you, but I'll just be in your general vicinity.
I'm not going to rip into anybody for doing
not ripping
on their bye week.
Not ripping.
I do appreciate that Fred thinks like that. I'll say that. I mean, I'm not the one on vacation. I'm not the one, sacrificing their vacation week to avoid flying. So it's easy for me to say. But
to me, though, like, it's not a vacation. You're not done. You're in the middle of a season. It's a recharge week. It's supposed to be do whatever you got to do to feel rested and fresh because you may not get another one of these the rest of the or I don't know. That's the way Fred looks at it, and I respect the way that's the way he looks at it. I'm not a football player. I don't know what I would do. Maybe I'll go to Disneyland. I like Disneyland sometimes.
I look at it like teachers, because I feel like they have the season, like teachers have the school year, and then they have the summer off, just like players have an off season. But my wife still gets a week off for spring break. So that's me what I look at the bye week as. It's like, yes, they have like downtime, whatever, but like it's still your vacation week. You still are entitled to go places. Again, I like it for staying home, but I want to get to
I think it's tough to be like a highly paid, famous millionaire football player and still be like, well, I have a curfew and I can't really go out. Like, you're very much treated like a big kid in the NFL. And I think at a certain point, you're like, wait a second, I'm making $35 million a year. Can't I do what I want on this week? Like, yeah, you can. But Fred's going along with the program. Like, that's just kind of football's rough like that.
Bosa kind of talked about that at one point this year. He was like, it doesn't feel like we're 20-year-olds that have all this money. Like, because a lot of times you don't get to use it the way like another person in another 20-year-old in a different industry with that much money might get to use it.
Think about it this way. I'm going to Tampa this weekend to cover this game. Bosa's going to Tampa this weekend to play in the game. Bosa makes $34 million a year. I don't. I do okay, but I don't make that. I'm going to have a great time in Tampa. I'm going to take myself out to dinner on Friday, stay out as late as I freaking want, sleep in the next day, drink. Have a nice time as a 36-year-old man. He can't. He'll be in his freaking room at 11 o'clock both nights. And he makes $34 million a year. I'm going to have a better time than him. I have more freedom than him. It must be kind of rough. I could see why people eventually you know what? I'm done playing. I don't want to get talked to and treated like this anymore.
Hold on. Are you 36 years old?
I'm about to be 37 in 2 months.
You're younger than me? Oh, my God.
Did I ruin your day? Did I ruin it?
40 in January.
Oh, 40 is the new 45, though.
Oh, just when I thought this day couldn't get any worse, I
thought you were 27.
I wish.
Yeah. What do you think I was? 42?
I thought you were like my age, like 38, 39.
Damn it.
You're younger than me. You're more successful than me. This day.
I'm not equally successful.
Kamal asks, Grant, you saw Dre Greenlaw at practice. What's he looking like?
Hold on. The Monday practice was 90 seconds, and I was focused on Christian McCaffrey, so I didn't see that. I'll see him today at they practice at 12:40-ish. No, 1:30. I'll see it then.
Also, I didn't hear anything about like Debo or Jordan Mason. A lot of the other guys that were banged up that weren't Christian McCaffrey or Juwan Jennings, I didn't hear anything. Were they in the bonus practice on Monday? I don't know, because Mason's
got to remember at the most practices you get stretches plus individual drills, so it's 20 minutes, and everyone can sort of people will bring out a roster and do attendance like they're substitute teachers. But for the bonus practice, they don't have to give you it. So right. So it's they're stretching. Okay, we're done. Thank you very much. It's why did you even invite us? So everyone's like, is Christian there? Oh my God, let me get a video.
Right, and then you're out.
Yeah.
Generic name says, by the way, Mr. Stats, having an offense on the field with 2 minutes or less doesn't make it a 2-minute offense. Oh, are you the 49ers don't have a 2-minute drill guy? Generic name.
Isn't it fun when you get caught up in an argument for weeks? It's wait a second.
Right.
We talked about this weeks ago, but thank you.
Yeah.
That's Twitter.
Okay.
Can't you let this go? It's been 3 years. Nope.
Harris says Grant is 4,000 subs away from 100,000. Is that true? 4,000? Dude, I'm out here just trying to get to 14,000. Okay.
You can do it. I believe in you.
By the way, if anyone is watching this on Grant's channel and you don't subscribe to the Gold Standard channel, please do. Can I get to 14,000 before Grant gets to 100,000? You're going to get one of those plaques. What are you going to do with that plaque?
I don't know. I'm going to put it in the back. I'm going to take it everywhere with me. So I'm here, have my plaque. I don't know. Once you ask my plaque, what do you think? Oh.
Dude, I got to tell you, I want one of those things so damn bad.
You'll get it. Rising tide lifts all boats, I think.
Yeah. We'll see. Generic name paid $1.99 to say no. Thank you.
I don't know what that means, but I like it.
I guess he's disagreeing with my 2 minutes.
One more guy who needs to step up.
One more guy who needs to step up.
Nicholas Bosa.
Yes.
Be better.
You know who else needs to step up? Me, because I forgot to do the BetUS.
Oh, do it now.
So we're going to do it now. If you want to make a bet this football season, please do it with BetUS. You can receive 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit up to $2,000. Just use code YouTube150. That is code YouTube150. Let's look at the spread quickly for this week. The 49ers were favorites on the road. They are 5.5-point favorites, Grant. And this time I actually agree with that.
Well, I think the over-under is also at 51. So doing the math in my head real quick, they're expecting sort of a 28-23 victory for the 49ers. You pointed out earlier in the show that the Bucs are giving up 27 points a game. So that seems like quite a reasonable projection. And again, I think if the Niners were to lose this game, it would probably be because they, which is a euphemism for Brock, probably turn the ball over. Sorry.
I think I'm going to give the points in this one. And maybe I'm putting way too much stock in McCaffrey coming back and coming off a bye and all that stuff. But Bucs are drained after that loss to the Chiefs. Their defense was on the field for a long time. The Niners are the more talented team. The Bucs have a quarterback that can turn it over just as much as Brock can. And the Niners have been good, especially at intercepting the ball this year. So I'll take the Niners and give the points.
Sounds good to me. I don't like Bet. I mean, who's Tampa? They've lost 3 in a row. They could be going down right now.
Generic name says, I refuse to stop mentioning it. It's a major black hole in Brock's game that he can't improve because Kyle's system does not include a true 2-minute offense. I disagree, such as it is. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Again, code YouTube150 if you want to sign up for that. Grant, you are the man. Thank you very much, sir.
No, you're the man. Thank you very much, sir.